These stories had to do with us living with or near my dear Aunt Dorothy. Anyway, I'll just start them and see what you think. My Aunt Dorothy had three dachshunds, Gretel, Fritz, and Amber. She was married to my Uncle Carl Hubner, about as German as a guy could get. He still spoke German, especially when he was mad at the dog. Bettelsack, that's German for beggar, he would call them when one of them begged at the table. Aunt Dorothy and Uncle Carl had no children between them, but he had a son by a previous marriage, Carl Jr., who occasionally lived with him, especially in the summer. We were friends, but this tale is about the dogs. Gretel and Fritz were just fine. We played a lot. Amber, however, was paranoid and would bite. One Halloween, I was dressed as G.I. Joe, a very popular costume for boys my age. In 1944, I was 7. Amber was sleeping near the stove in the living room on her makeshift bed. I snuck up behind her and took my fake rifle and gave her just a gentle poke. She jumped up, snarling a bit, bit my rifle, and then she bit me. Ow, I cried, dropping the gun and holding my injured hand. She awoke sufficiently to then see that it was just me, gave me one parting growl, and then laid back down as if nothing had happened. What happened? Inquired Aunt Dorothy as she came running in from the kitchen. Amber bit me, I exclaimed. I poked her with the rifle. I was just playing, and she bit me. I don't blame her, said Aunt Dorothy. I would have bit you too, and went back to the kitchen. Some lessons must, I suppose, be learned the hard way. Never sneak up on a sleeping dog, or as it says in Bartlett's, let sleeping dogs lie. This is called The Flood and the Book Report. My brother Dave and I were living with our aunt and uncle at a little fishing camp in Shelby County. It was called Walnut Grove, and they managed the place. The fishing was on Sugar Creek. I think every state in the Union has at least one Sugar Creek. In the spring of 1947, the rains came and the creek swelled to the highest it had ever been. I mean, right up to the back door. Uncle Carl had a rowboat tied up to a clothes pole. Dave hadn't started school yet, but I was in the 4th grade at Bogstown School, 4 miles away. It was an 8-room schoolhouse with all 12 grades. A flood. Oh boy, I didn't have to go to school. Anything was better than that. I was in Mrs. Compton's class, and she said, as I was leaving Monday afternoon, if it keeps raining, Jimmy, I won't expect you tomorrow, but you can give your book report when you get back after the flood. The rains continued, the water crept up. I hadn't read a book. The rain was a reprieve. Maybe I'll start it tomorrow. It was Howard P.'s thriller for boys about sailing on the China Seas. It was only 150 pages long. I could skim it in one day. Life was good, right? Wrong. Aunt Dorothy woke me up at 7 o'clock and said, dress and get ready for school. I'll row you up to the bridge and you can catch the bus there. Sometimes I hate resourcefulness. I said, get up. She did. I did. Excuse me. We climbed in the boat. Aunt Dorothy took one oar, me the other. We rowed. I caught the bus. I got to school on time. And after all that, I was saved. Mrs. Compton said I could wait till Wednesday on account of the flood. Looking back, I think she knew I wasn't ready. Anyway, same scenario next day. I was rowed to the bus. I had skimmed the book. I told the class all about the China Sea, and I got an A. Go figure. I didn't have to go to school. I couldn't get there. The rain had so swollen Sugar Creek that the water was clear up to the door. We were living at Walnut Grove, a little fishing resort. I use the term loosely, on the creek. My aunt and uncle ran the place. No cooking stove, no ordinary windows, and certainly no indoor toilet. I didn't think of this way at the time, but it was Dad's hideout. We had just come there in the middle of the night from Louisiana, where Dad had scammed the McElhaney brothers. I had been enrolled in the 4th grade at Bogstown School, but had to walk a half mile to the Walnut Grove entrance to catch the bus. Not now. The water was 10 feet deep in places, with a quicksand-based soil. It's an ill wind that doesn't blow somebody a little good. I could stay home, eat peanut butter and jelly, read classic comic books, and play with Gretel's new pups. She was a dachshund. She had 7 of them. Aunt Dorothy raised dachshunds for sale, but couldn't sell them now, high water and all. It was the year of the Coatesville tornado, as it must have been the spring of 1948. I loved living there, especially in the summer. I could get free RC colas and knee-highs. I could fish, swim, help set up the concession stand, and help Uncle Carl count the money. One time, the day after the 4th of July, we counted over $1,000, mostly in 1s and 5s, but you had to be there. I had never seen that much money in one pile. But now it was spring and had been raining and sometimes storming for days. Ever ride out a thunderstorm with wind and lightning in a rickety cabin built on the top of cement blocks? It will hold your interest. Anyway, that part was all over, but now the flood. If it came up any higher, we would have to go onto the roof. Really, no one knew what to do. As I said, the only really good thing was I didn't have to go to school. The water slowly over days went down to where we could get out by car. It took about a week. Mom had to boil the water to drink. A few years later, when I could drive, I wanted to take Mom and Dave on a Sunday drive. Let's go down to Walnut Grove, I suggested. Mom looked at me with that look and said, if you're going there, you can let me out.